subscribe to this channel right now. The Supreme Court has given Trump yet another victory right before November 5th. That's going to help Trump tremendously. There's a reason that Democrats have continually lost Supreme Court decisions dating back to the Colorado ban that was overturned. Then you had presidential immunity, that their challenges to presidential immunity actually made the presidency stronger, which is not what Democrats wanted. The Supreme Court sided with Trump. And so you've had a string of victories, the latest one in Virginia. And this is a Vox article. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is huge, and you will get to the analysis. The Republican Supreme Court just blessed an illegal purge. By definition, the Supreme Court is tasked with judicial review. By definition, they decide whether something is constitutional or not. Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much. By the way, to my super chat, we have a goal of 5 super chats. It's a new feature that we have here. Paul is just always so wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's get started. Paul, thank you again, as always, in Australia. To my viewers around the world and in the U.S., obviously, be here, especially on the 5th of November and throughout this month, next month, and beyond. We're growing the channel. It's going to be an amazing, amazing time in American history. I've been telling you for 4 years Trump is going to regain the Oval Office. He's on his way to regaining the Oval Office, despite the apoplectic response from media and pundits to the left of center. Hit subscribe right now.
A moment ago now, just ruling that Virginia will be allowed to resume its purge of voter registrations. Remember, the governor said that there were some 1,600 who were admitted non-citizens. David Spunce live with that in D.C. What's the word, David? Hello.
Well, this is significant, and this is a controversial issue in Virginia. And while it's dealing with only 1,600 voters or so, it's...
Why would that be controversial? Why would ensuring that American citizens, or that only American citizens decide who becomes president, why on earth is that controversial? And it's interesting how Democrats have continually lost. They lost, actually, Justice Jackson. It was a unanimous decision overturning the Colorado ban. Unanimous. The liberal justices sided with Trump. Then the January defendants' sentences were struck down. Justice Jackson sided with the Republicans in the Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court allowed what seems to be very logical and reasonable practice in terms of ensuring the integrity of the outcome of the presidency.
Something that could have national implications as we are now less than a week away. So Governor Glenn Youngkin signed an executive order back in August. The Department of Justice sued Youngkin, saying that he can't toy with executive orders and taking people off voter rolls within 90 days of an election. It violates federal law.
By the way, this is the same Democratic Party that pontificates about voter suppression. And they had millions upon millions of people choose Biden for the primary. He won his primary. Biden was victorious in his primary. And then they ousted him because of obvious issues, cognitive, physical. God bless him. Wish him only the best. But it was obvious 4 years ago, which is why Trump couldn't believe that he lost. One of the reasons, in addition to other reasons. But so even Democrats 4 years into this have said, oh, enough of the charade. Let's give the next presidency to Harris, who will lose to Trump. But why even have a primary? They cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016. They're doing even worse to Biden, which is, I find that so absurd and hilarious that they've come full circle. When they anointed Clinton and she, quote unquote, won the primary, they said, well, she won a primary. And they said, well, you know what? We could do anything we want, but at least she won a primary. Well, but Harris did not win a primary. And now they're saying, well, we don't even need a primary. Then why have one? Why do you even have a convention? There's zero semblance of meritocracy.
Governor Youngkin says that some 1,600 people did not present their citizenship status. They are non-citizens of the United States, and they should not be able to vote. The Justice Department said some of them did not properly fill out a DMV form. They skipped over a box, or some became citizens later, resulting in actual U.S. citizens being removed from the rolls in error. So the Supreme Court ruling on that today.
So Democrats are worried about the several that are wrongfully removed, as opposed to the majority, the greater number that should never have even decided who becomes president or who becomes governor or who becomes senator or who becomes representative.
These are the states right now where legal challenges currently exist. Many are battleground states. In North Carolina, a federal appeals court ruled the state Republican Party's effort to question some 225,000 ballots must stay in federal court, not move to state court. That's a temporary win for Democrats there. In Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court expected to rule about provisional ballots there. Now, while the justices are busy, the court did cross off one case, or if you will, two cases yesterday. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s name will remain on the ballot in Michigan and Wisconsin, though he wanted it taken off after endorsing former President Trump. Even though he's no longer a candidate, people can still vote for him in those cases. The High Court also involved in several pre-election cases. Both campaigns have said they've recruited Bill and Dana thousands of lawyers across the country, some on a volunteer basis, for pre- and post-election fights. One concern, getting the pace of the results in. In many states, if you cast a ballot early, it can be counted early, but not in 6 states, including the swing state of Pennsylvania, where everyone's watching. Officials there cannot even open the ballots until Election Day, so the results may not be known in Pennsylvania for days. State officials in Pennsylvania say nothing nefarious about that. Back to you.
So we'll try and make all of that clear as mud come election.
Nothing nefarious or despicable or diabolical. Nothing at all.
Night for our viewers watching at home, too. Thank you, David. Nice to see you.
For more on this, Andy McCarthy is a former assistant U.S. attorney and a Fox News contributor. I turn over the floor to you to talk about this breaking news from the Supreme Court.
Well, I think it's the only result that really makes sense. What Virginia was trying to do was take people off the ballot who are not voters because they're not Americans, and that's by their own admission. And
why do you think Democrats find that objectionable? Why? It's a rhetorical question. Why would Democrats want people who shouldn't decide the outcome of the presidency to decide the outcome of the presidency?
This idea that this could prevent or mistakenly result in American citizens from Virginia not being able to vote is bogus, because under Virginia law, let's say they've taken you off the ballot mistakenly. Under Virginia law, if you show up to vote on Election Day and you attest that you are an American citizen, they have to let you vote. So there wasn't a chance that an actual American citizen was going to be prevented from voting here. On the other hand, it is a federal crime for aliens both to represent themselves as American citizens in order to register to vote, and it's a federal crime for them to cast votes. So Virginia's law promotes election integrity in Virginia. It supports federal law, and it doesn't result in Americans being proscribed from voting.
Andy, I agree with everything you just said. However,
thank you, Angie, and Paul. Thank you to my super chat. Thank you. So the question is, why do you think, if you're stumbling upon this channel, hit subscribe right now. I ask very simple questions. Why is it that Democrats or Biden's Department of Justice would challenge a law simply made to ensure non-citizens don't decide the outcome of presidential or gubernatorial or senatorial or congressional contests. Why is that so important for Democrats to ensure that there's no challenge, there's no way to ensure that people who shouldn't decide the outcome of the presidency possibly end up deciding the outcome of the presidency? And it's interesting. It's interesting because they wanted to ban Trump from the ballot. They wanted to ban RFK Jr., but they want to allow people who shouldn't be, who are not by federal law allowed to decide the outcome of these political contests, to decide the outcome of political contests. So when they want to interfere with democracy, they do so without thought, in a heartbeat. They will try to ban Trump from every state. They will try to ban RFK Jr., but then they'll say, no, you can't ensure that only citizens decide the outcome of the presidency, which is typical of the Democratic Party. It's purely an attempt to attain political power. That's it. It has nothing to do with democracy or the will of the people. If they cared about that, they'd have a functioning primary. You're talking about a political party. And Republicans have done the same thing too, but 20 years ago. Now it's the Democratic Party doing this. You're talking about a political party that will do anything to attain political power. There's no set value system, okay? So the same article that I showed you from Vox saying, "Oh, the Supreme Court illegally," there's no such thing as the Supreme Court illegally did anything. The Supreme Court decides the constitutionality of laws. It's tasked with judicial review. They're literally there to decide what is constitutional, what is lawful, and what isn't lawful.
However, every legal analyst, including yourself, often says the courts want to stay away from elections the closer we get to them. And I was of the understanding that this court was just like that. And now we get this ruling, which I think might come to a bit of a surprise. Am I wrong on that?
Well, here's the thing, Bill. Courts want to stay out of a lot of things that they're thrust into, but they're in the problem-solving business, and there's lots of problems that are very hard. I think with elections, the thing with courts is they don't want to be perceived as deciding the election. So if you bring the court a dispute before the election takes place and before the election's been announced, you can frame that as something that is just fixing the rules under which we're going to proceed. I think the real problem comes after the election, when the result, at least presumptively, is known, and what you're asking the court to do is potentially reverse what it seems like the voters have decided. That's a position they never want to be in. We're much more likely to get decent decisions out of them in the run-up to the election, I think, than post facto.
Got it.
Okay, Andy, let's go to Pennsylvania now. The Republicans are asking the Supreme Court to block the counting of some provisional ballots in Pennsylvania. Let me read from the Wall Street Journal, Ed Board. This is the second presidential election in a row that Pennsylvania's mail vote messes have drawn in the U.S. Supreme Court at the last minute. The state's laws need an overhaul. It was weird reading this last night because I felt like, didn't I read this 4 years ago? Why is this still a problem?
Well, they haven't been forced to fix it. I think, we had a chance, Dana, with the Moore case before the Supreme Court last time around, where they could really have rendered a clear decision that would have set up clear guidelines for what the states have to do, and then you would have expected the states to be able to fix it. The thing is, I thought the court's decision was kind of ambiguous, so they don't really come out and say that the state legislature makes the rules and the courts and executive officials are not at liberty to change those rules in the run-up. And since they clearly didn't clearly say that, there's still a lot of ambiguity about who's allowed to do what in the run-up to the election. So we need clearer rules. The states obviously got to do a better job, but they could be pushed to do a better job.
Yeah.
So according to the Supreme Court ruling in Virginia, you're probably going to get the Supreme Court, let's say, for example, in Pennsylvania or other states, where there is a challenge that goes up to the Supreme Court. And of course, Harris and Democrats want, they want something similar to the existing Virginia law that Youngkin used his executive order to address, okay, that Democrats are all upset about. Very likely, the Supreme Court is going to side with the Virginia governor or the Republicans in Pennsylvania, or the Republicans in other states. They've been siding with Trump throughout the past year, and I have done a lot of work on this channel talking about the Supreme Court decisions that sided with Trump. Now, I want to just show you really quickly. We talked about this in the prior live stream. I'm going to do 3 live streams a day. I will do a live stream tonight at around 10:30 p.m. Eastern. I want you to pay close attention to this. This is very important, and this is just an example of why people do not trust media. Something like 70 to 80% of Americans do not trust media. This is an example why. I'm going to show you President Trump going into a garbage truck, a Trump garbage truck, and you have pundits who are deceiving in the most despicable and deceptive manner, the most disingenuous, petulant manner. You tell me if this is a Biden-esque type of situation. Trump gets into the garbage truck, and that's it. They have turned this into, oh my God, Trump is just like Biden. Look, he has physical and cognitive, problems. It's like, no, it was either slippery or whatever. Like let's say you're walking in dress shoes and it had just rained. You can see the ground is slippery. It doesn't even matter. Let's say if it's a clear day. You have, you're walking, you latch on to the handle, but you have to do it a second time. What's the big deal? He got up. With all due respect to the current president, I don't think Biden could. I'm not even sure if Harris could without some help. But let's listen, let's watch this.
All right, guys. All right, guys. Full camera.
Right here. Keep commenting. Nice.
What kind of disingenuous fool, what kind of imbecile would say that Trump has issues with his age or physical or cognitive issues because of what you just saw? We'll do the replay right here. Please tell me what the big deal was. I'll even make the screen larger. Okay, so we'll do the replay, okay? He's walking, he latches on for a second. Okay, couldn't find it. Then he goes, he's up. It's like, what's the problem here? That happens all the time. What's the big deal? I don't get it. I don't understand the apoplectic deception, the obsession to make everything morally relative. They literally, so you had pundits who spent years saying Trump has cognitive decline, when in reality it was the current president, Biden. Then they said, oh, we spoke to experts and Biden's fine. Then they said, oh, let's try. How dare you talk about Biden in that manner? Then they ousted him. They literally chose Harris over Biden after he won his primary. He had such cognitive issues that he won his primary, and they still, because of one debate where everyone saw him look like he was watching a deer in the headlights, look unfortunately frail and, with a whole bunch of issues. He was basically like he showed the world that the lights were on, but nobody was home. He was run fry short of a Happy Meal. A whole bunch of things you could say. But it was one debate, and they said, wow, we've had enough of Biden in that one debate. Oh my God. Then they ousted him because of serious cognitive and likely physical issues. He's fallen down steps, fallen from a bicycle, all of these things. Now they're saying, oh, it's the same thing. They are so desperate, and that's why nobody trusts media, because there's an obvious... So you're walking, you latch on to the handle, but you know you can't get a good grip, and then you get a grip, and you go up. What's the big deal? I don't get it. The man, okay, at worst you could say, okay, he's close to 80, so if he was 30 or 25, he would have latched on immediately. Whereas now it took him literally less than a second, like a half a second, to get his bearing to go back up. I don't understand what was such a big deal that they're making this out to be. But here, watch this again. Goes up, finally grabs a hold of it, goes up. Not a big deal. And by his own, like, he pulls himself up.
All right, guys. All right, guys. Full camera.
Right here. Keep commenting. Nice.
Could Biden have done that? And I say that respectfully. Okay, could Biden have done that? Could Biden do this right now? Can he do this?
All right, guys. Full camera.
Right here. Keep commenting. Nice.
Could Harris do that? You're pulling yourself up. You're pulling your entire body up. It's pretty good for a man. Like, if you want to say he's old, then say it's pretty good for a man his age. But he does not show signs of aging. He just went up, pulled himself up by his own weight. I would love to see the pundits go ahead and do that. This is not like, an Olympic, Herculean feat. But you are pulling yourself up. It's steep. And a lot of people, even in their 20s, would do the same type. Would get up probably in the same, at the same pace, or maybe even slower than Trump. But I don't see what the issue was. They're trying to paint Trump and make him out to be Biden, and that's their problem. They're so beyond hope in terms of being honest and rational. They know that their candidates, were it not for a monstrosity of public relations, would never, ever win. They know that. They know their candidates would never win if not for the MSNBC, CNN, the Washington Post, New York Times, the Atlantic, and 5, 6, 10, 12, 20 other publications that are 24/7 Trump bad. And still they're going to lose. And by the way, Trump has had to deal... Biden had 3 weeks of what Trump dealt with for 7 to 8 years. 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks. Biden was saying, oh, I'm going to stay in the contest. I'm the nominee. I'm going to defeat Trump. Well, then he was ousted. Okay? Ousted. He was removed. Just like Bernie Sanders was cheated, they did worse to Biden. And now they're saying, oh, look, Trump got into a garbage truck and he's just like Biden. It's like, no, this is why nobody trusts media. This is why when people turn on the news, they know that there's a specific, detailed agenda. And it's the news, a lot of the news, or most of the news, a lot or most of the news is an echo chamber or a newsletter or a radio station for the Democratic Party. But let's go ahead and continue.
Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign is now in damage control, while Trump is on the offense. This all comes after Biden's garbage comments are now threatening, listen to this, to derail Harris's campaign. Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. I'm wearing orange for Halloween. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner.
So here are the comments that they say Biden did not make. So they say Trump lies. Trump's the most honest politician because the things he says Almost always he means like he wants a wall, he wants a better economy, he wants to end wars. He means that. Democrats don't want Medicare for all. They don't want any of these things. They don't really want a Green New Deal. They don't want to, pack the court. All of these things they say they want, they don't. Trump is like the most honest. Then if you ask the Democrat, like, what did he lie about? They'll say, oh, he lied about this or that. And then you'll actually, if you understand politics, you're like, oh, wait, Democrats were saying the exact same things before Trump was saying it. And then they changed their tune when Trump ended up saying something. But anyway, this is what Biden said. And now they're saying Biden didn't say it.
People, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of things is unconscionable.
So the second sentence is typical Biden. His demonization is unconscionable. I don't even know what the second sentence was. Nobody knows what the second sentence was. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So that's one of the reasons they ousted him. But here, and then they said he had a speech impediment, which is the greatest lie of all time. Then they even got like a young person to say, I have a speech impediment too. They have no shame. Democrats have no shame. There's great, wonderful, beautiful, amazing liberal Democrats who are just beautiful people. Okay, I'm not saying all Democrats. I'm saying the political party. There are people that despise Trump that I know that are just a beautiful, amazing, wonderful, awesome individuals and human beings. But it's like a mind, what Elon Musk called it, a mind, and then you fill in the next word. It's like if you are susceptible to the lies about Trump, you won't realize how amazing, how awesome he is. So, for example, they do the opposite with Biden. The things he said, they say he didn't say. Okay. And then with Trump, they make up things that he said, and then they say he said it. But listen to this again.
His demonization of things is unconscious. His out there is his supporters. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of things is unconscionable.
The only garbage I see out there is his supporters. And then in Biden-esque manner, his demonizational thing is unconscionable. What does that even mean? Nobody knows what it means. It's like, what's his name? Will Ferrell. Nobody knows what it means.
Thing is unconscionable.
Biden was responding.
His demonization of things is unconscionable.
His demonizational scene is unconscionable. His demonizational
thing is unconscionable. Out there is his supporters. His garbage I see floating people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. You heard that. That's what he said. Then his press secretary said he didn't say it. And then they say Trump lies. It's like, it's unbelievable. Then you have really smart, like, professors. Oh, Trump, he's so horrible. It's like, no. You're oblivious to a very nefarious public relations machine. And then he says this.
His demonization of things is unconscionable.
So nobody knows what that means. Let's continue.
And Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Kaylee McGee-White, journalism fellow for the Steamboat Institute and senior fellow for the Independent Women's Forum, and Mark Thiessen, Fox News contributor. President Biden set off an election firestorm with those viral comments trashing half the country, trashing Trump supporters.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of things is unconscionable.
Now, those remarks, they speak for themselves, and they may fire up and drive up voter turnout for Trump in a razor-tight presidential race. Who knew that Biden would be providing the get-out-the-vote operation for Republicans? But it appears that may be the case. Trump, for his part, he quickly seized on the moment in a big dig to Biden's comments. And in another made-for-TV visual for his campaign that went viral, look at him there. He rolled up in a MAGA garbage truck wearing a bright orange vest to his campaign rally in Wisconsin.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
Okay, so then he did a press conference from the garbage truck. We are still waiting for Kamala Harris to do one. He did one from a garbage truck. And then he stepped on the stage in Green Bay at his rally, still wearing the bright orange vest, and he defended his supporters.
And I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage. My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. That's true. You can't be president if you hate the American people, which I believe they do. Kamala and Joe call all of us, and them, even them, garbage. I call you the heart and soul of America. For the past 9 years, Kamala and her party have called us racist, bigots, fascists.
So you'll find this a lot with Democrats or wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberals, or even people who claim to be atheists and, the intelligentsia who despises Trump, authors, very accomplished people. Oh, Trump, oh. And it's like, well, what don't you like about him? Do you judge people by their words, or do you judge people by their actions? I judge people by their actions. We had record low poverty with Trump. We had record highs in household median income. We had low inflation. We had low interest rates. We had low mortgage rates. We had a foreign policy where he was the first president to step foot in North Korea. We had a foreign policy where he withdrew Americans from never-ending military conflict. The same military quagmires that Democrats and Bush, Liz Cheney Republicans got them into. We had a great foreign policy. We had record low poverty. Now you have journalists who, did a whole lot of work on alleviating poverty, oppose Trump. It's like, what are you doing? We had record low poverty. If you're on the left and you care about the working class and you're a big socialist or communist, you should love Trump. We had less poverty, and the quote-unquote working class was doing a lot better with Trump. In fact, a big part of the working class is voting and choosing Trump over Harris. Democrats have most of the billionaires and most of Wall Street still. And then you have pundits who are kind of like stuck in the 90s where they're like, oh yeah, the Republicans or the stuffy Wall Street types. No, that's the Democratic Party now. It's opposite. Let's continue.
That you've got about 6 days here. But Emily, that moment symbolized so much. It wasn't just some gimmicky stunt wearing a garbage man's vest. That is not what it was. He talked about all the things that have been done to American people. He connected it to policy, the grievances at the border, economically. And then he said, I'm standing up for you. To connect a flaw of Biden to policy and turn it around into a viral moment, it's really something to see.
Oh, it is. It's brilliant. But it wasn't a machinated strategy. He leaned into it because he authentically is like, you call me garbage? Well, then that's what I am. But you know what? I call us the heart and soul of America. And he's been leaning into, embracing authentically now for years, the fact that he represents and is one of the portion of America, the large majority of America that has been forgotten. And not only forgotten, but that was called deplorables and irredeemables and terrorists. Trump, their number one reason said was because he fights for people like me. And we are seeing it there. And by the way, out in the streets of New York, I've seen a lot of people in a Donald Trump costume wearing that garbage vest. It's phenomenal because they say, you know what? Me too. And that is phenomenal.
It is. Harris, it was really funny when he described his decision to wear that on stage. I would have never expected that because he's kind of particular about what he wears and appearance.
He is.
But listen to him describe the decision here.
Then I got in the car and I'm driving over here and I have this still on. And I come into the arena and I say, where's my jacket? I want to get out of this thing. And they said, it would be unbelievable if you could wear it on stage. I said,
Could you imagine any Democrats speaking to an audience? I mean, there's like, people don't really want to listen to Harris or Biden or most Democrats. But let's say they mustered up a whole bunch of people in an auditorium someplace, okay? Could you imagine, like, the crowd enjoying what Harris, like, genuinely enjoying what Biden or Harris has to say? I mean, that's, like, people don't think about that when they analyze Trump. I'm so sick and tired of this nonsense about Trump's behavior, his character. I judge a person's character by their actions. You should judge a human being not by their words, not by what people say about them, but by their actions, by their achievements, how they help the world. With Trump, we had record low poverty. With Trump, and this was in 2019, it wasn't President Obama's economy. Trump took over in 2016. If you failed basic math, and you're a wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrat, you say, well, you know, it's really President Obama's economy. No, that was 3 going on 4 years. The beginning of 2020, we still had a great economy. Then you know what happened. And then Democratic governors gleefully tanked their state economies and shut down their state economies. But anyway, that's another story. That's another really nefarious story we won't get into. Trump has the best character, the best moral compass of any president we've had in the past, 50 years or so. Name me a president where we had a great economy and a great foreign policy in the past 50 years. President Obama was just like Bush. Bush was a catastrophe in terms of foreign policy. President Obama destroyed, with his intervention, Libya, which, by his own admission, President Obama stated it was his worst mistake. Trump, in his entire life, didn't have a mistake as catastrophic as intervening in a country and toppling its leader and helping cause endless chaos and regional instability. So spare me the nonsense about how Trump is this and that. We had a much more stable world under Trump. Fact. That is an absolute fact. It's not up for debate. We didn't have the invasions and quagmires we do now. The second Biden regained, or whatever, the people around him regained the Oval Office, we had a bunch of nonsense. Instability, global instability, inflation through the roof. Then they said inflation was temporary. Then they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and inflation still went up, but inflation hit 9%. Can you imagine if it hit 9% under Trump? Can you imagine if all the failures in the Biden-Harris administration took place in Trump's administration? I mean, they were saying that just simple meetings with world leaders was like an abomination. Imagine what they would have said if Trump had Harris's record or Biden's record in terms of the economy.
And I said, no way. I got 25,000 people standing outside. I got all these people here. There's no way I'm wearing it on stage. They said, oh, okay, sir. I said, get me my jacket. But if you did, you know, it actually makes you look thinner. I said, oh. And they got me. I said, I want to wear it on stage. When they said I look thinner, I said, in that case, I'll wear it on stage. I may never wear a blue.
Kamala wants struggling senior.
And I may go.
All right, so you would know. I mean, you've worked with him in many different capacities. What's going on there?
Look, I mean, he has his look, right? This is a man who knows brand. So he has his brand. He has his iconic red tie, which he occasionally changes up. But he looked thinner, so his staff so smart to get him on stage like that. I love it. He was having fun.
Look, if you're Kamala Harris and you have worked, as Emily has talked about, because she lived in California at the time, as long as she has on the public dole, right, getting her paycheck from taxpayers as an attorney general of our largest state in the union.
What is Harris's greatest accomplishment? Trump's could very well be being the first president to enter North Korea and hosting and being an intermediary between North and South Korea. It's a phenomenal achievement. Trump had record low poverty. Trump had record highs in household median income, which we still have not reached yet because of inflation and interest rates. We had low interest rates with Trump. We had low inflation with Trump. Like Stephen King and Colbert and all of these like late night comedians and authors and all of these wonderful professors. If you're an intellectual or a professor somewhere, what was wrong about Trump's presidency? I mean, aside from the hysteria and the apoplectic accusations, which proved to be nonsense, we had a great economy with Trump. Where's the rebuttal to that? We had a great foreign policy. It was anti-war foreign policy. And the invasions that were said to were going to take place under Trump took place under Biden. We have instability in two regions of the world that Democrats said, especially one region, that said, well, you know what? The Kremlin's afraid of us. Well, then they're so afraid of you, then they did what they did in the past couple of years. How the entire Trump-Russia story is predicated upon the absurd belief that the Kremlin is afraid of Democrats, which couldn't be further from the truth. Because actually all the terrible things that happened in the world took place when Democrats took over. Okay, countries were invaded that shouldn't have been invaded when Democrats took over. The same country in particular in Europe that they said, oh my God, the Kremlin's so afraid of us. Well, then why did they do what they did when you were in power? But they didn't invade when Trump was in power. Very simple questions to ask.
California as a prosecutor, and now as vice president. I mean, taxpayers have paid her bill. If you don't know by now how to connect with people and to understand how to own a moment that your boss has created.
Thank you for the kind words, everybody. Thank you.
You're stepping in all sorts of stuff now. You've got to connect with the American people, and it needs to be authentic, and it needs to be organic for you to own this moment. And the reason Kamala Harris doesn't own it right now, and that she reflexively wants to go after a different comment that Trump made, as we saw in that gaggle today, because we took it live during Faulkner Focus, the reason that she can't own that moment right now is because it's not who she is. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't have more than 5 days to convince the public that she can do this. Mm-hmm. She can connect with, and this isn't just about garbage truck workers. This is about blue collar workers. This is about every man and woman in the country who have a job right now.
This is about the working class that communists and socialists and progressives care so much about. The same working class that had low interest rates, low inflation, low mortgage rates, record highs in household median income, record low in poverty, record highs in record low in unemployment also. The working class loves Trump, absolutely loves Trump by and large. That's why I'm saying if you're on the far left, you should actually, if you look at the economic numbers and you look at foreign policy, you should love Trump.
All paying more for their groceries and whatnot. She can't do it. Now, maybe she's got other gifts that she can show in the next 5 days. But this kind of ownership of a moment, we haven't seen it yet.
You know, Biden made a garbage comment, so naturally the White House had to do cleanup on aisle dumpster, not aisle 5 this time. And, you know, this cleanup on aisle dumpster did not go so well, and I don't envy anyone's position having to defend this, though the apostrophe, that was kind of clever to come up with. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre endeavoring to explain the impossible.
So just to clarify, he was not calling Trump supporters garbage.
He literally called Trump supporters garbage. Like, you can watch on this video, you just saw it, or you can literally hear him say, and then who knows what he said the second sentence, but he literally called Trump supporters garbage. That's why when people say Trump lies all the time, Trump is the most honest politician we've had in a long, long, long time. It's his honesty. Like, he wants a wall. He legitimately wants a wall. He legitimately wants to end wars. He legitimately wants a great economy, to cut taxes. Okay? Democrats do not want Medicare for all. It's so deceptive, it's unbelievable. Democrats do not want the Green New Deal. They don't even want their own policies. That's how dysfunctional they are.
So did President Biden make a mistake in his comments yesterday?
He clarified what he said. It was very clear what he was trying to do. He was wanting to make sure that what he said was not taken out of context.
He literally gave the context by stating it in a categorical manner. He literally called Trump supporters garbage. So again, when you don't ever debate anyone in terms of politics for the next year. Please don't. But when you hear that Trump lies, so nobody lies more than morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who are defending Biden or Harris.
And he clarified that.
This isn't the first time the White House has had to defend or clarify the president's comments.
Nobody's defending the president himself. This is the president himself wanting to clarify what he said. He wanted to make sure that it was not taken out of context. These are the president's words. Nobody here is.
Why doesn't somebody have simply an iPad or like just a phone and play the clip? How difficult is that?
Defending. We are laying out what the president said himself, and he wanted to clarify that.
Kaylee, if I would have tried that at the podium, there would have been a ferocious roar. Acosta would have stormed out. John Carl would be rolling on the floor. How did she get away with this?
Yeah, Democrats' attempts to walk this back crack me up because this is essentially their argument. Trump supporters are right back to a couple weeks ago when Barack Obama made that condescending lecture to black men about, well, if you were just not so sexist, maybe you would start supporting Kamala Harris. This is what they think of voters. And, you know, Trump says that it's because they hate the American people. I think it's more accurate to say that they hate what the American people represent. They hate that someone with no political power out in the middle of flyover country has the ultimate source of authority in this country. They hate that someone like my mother-in-law, who worked in an auto factory still since she was 16 years old, has the final say over who gets to go to Washington, D.C. That is what they hate. They do not want to have to answer to the American people. They want the power for themselves.
So Democrats disparaging half the country. We did bring some receipts on that note. Thank you for prompting that. Let's roll it.
Donald Trump kind of snapped back at Biden for calling Trump supporters garbage. Watch this.
And I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage. Joe Biden's comments were the direct result of Kamala's decision to portray everyone who isn't voting for her, which is a lot of people, as evil and subhuman.
Well, look who's back. Wall Street Journal editorial board writer Alicia Finley with us today. Biden's comment was another, what was it, another deplorables moment?
Well, most definitely. I think the problem is it reinforces what voters already sense about the Democrats, is that they view that anyone who doesn't vote for Kamala Harris is a racist, a bigot, sexist, who believes in fascism. And this, you see Michelle Obama out there campaigning, saying you have to vote for Kamala Harris, men, otherwise you don't care about women. And this is just a very demeaning, condescending campaign that they're running.
So Democrats do this all the time. Like Hillary Clinton does not represent all women. I don't represent all men. Kamala Harris does not represent all women. You watching don't represent all women or all men. And it's like a very stupid mentality. It's a very vapid, sad, pathetic, I don't even know how to, it's pure propaganda. Okay. Harris and Clinton are not Margaret Thatcher. Okay. One of the great, female leaders of all time, women leaders of all time. You can disagree with her or whatever. Like, she is one of the greatest leaders of all time. But she was an individual. What made her special were her unique qualities. She didn't represent all women. She represented the UK. But the point is, it's like, they can't say vote for Harris because of all her vast accomplishments. I'm saying vote for Trump, and I'm saying I'm choosing Trump over Harris because I want a great economy and a great foreign policy. And, oh yes, by the way, Trump's character and his morals far superior to previous presidents. From Clinton, Bush, President Obama, absolutely. You look at President Obama's foreign policy and the countries he destabilized, one in particular that he admitted to destabilizing Libya. And that's a testament to one's character. You watching might have done, some bad things in your life. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We didn't destabilize an entire region of the world like Bush and President Obama. Trump didn't either. Okay, Trump didn't either. Trump did not destabilize the country. He didn't oust a leader and completely, cause chaos and mayhem. President Obama did with a failed intervention in Libya. And President Obama admitted to this. It was an interview with Chris Wallace at Fox like 12 years ago, I think. No, 8 years ago. So, you judge a person's character, their behavior, their character, their personality by what they've done in life, not by their words or by what people say about them. But anyway, let's continue.
I think Biden just essentially was honest when he said what he said. That's how a lot of Democrats view Republicans who support Trump.
You have a new op-ed out, and the title is "Press Bias Bolsters Trump Again." How much does the Harris and the media's hate campaign against Trump, how much does it actually help Trump?
Well, I think it incites a very visceral reaction among people who even don't like Trump particularly as a person. They may view him as a little crass sometimes, but they also really don't like the excessiveness of the media pile-on against him. Like, is he really a fascist? Come on, guys. And I think that you saw that in 2016, 2020, but it's even gotten worse this year. Trust in the media has actually reached an all-time low at 31%. People just don't actually even follow the New York Times or Washington Post anymore because they just view them as biased.
70% of Americans do not trust media. It's really like 80%. But the 20% to 30% that trust media are by and large Democratic Party loyalists, people who vote Democrat. Okay? The Washington Post and New York Times don't have one Trump supporter writing, very likely even working, well, just let's say on the staff. There's no journalists, there's no reporters, there are no writers who are supporters of Trump. Yet Trump is about to be a two-time president. What does that tell you? How out of touch are these publications when Trump is a president twice elected? And yet you don't have one, not even one person writing on his, giving the viewpoint of Americans who chose this man twice.
Yeah. Whomsoever organized the garbage truck event and whomsoever created the idea of Trump at the McDonald's, that person or these people should get a prize.
Oh, yeah. It's completely brilliant.
Absolutely priceless.
Brilliant. They should be in charge of Elon Musk is already the head of the Efficiency Commission, but is next in charge because the speed at which they did that is really amazing. How do you get a dumpster truck plastered with a Trump campaign?
Yeah. If Trump tells you to, you do it.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And whoever allowed Biden to go out and call Trump supporters garbage should be fired. But maybe it was Biden himself who did that.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I will be back tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. Be here at 11 p.m. Eastern, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you, everybody. To my super chat, thank you. Paul Martin, thank you so very much.